welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mia, and today we're gonna be making gluten-free cinnamon rolls. This is a new recipe on my blog, and I know sometimes recipes like this seem a little intimidating. They're actually super easy to make, but I figured it would be helpful for you guys to have like a visual to see how I make them if this is your first time baking something like this. So let's get right to it. Okay, so the first thing that I do for this recipe is measure out my milk and apple cider vinegar. It's gonna make sort of like a homemade buttermilk, so you have to let it sit for a few minutes. So I have 1 cup of, I'm using almond milk. You can use any milk that you want here. Then 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And then just kind of mix that up and set it to the side. And then we're gonna melt 1/3 cup of butter. I'm using regular butter, but you can use vegan butter here, or you can use coconut oil. I recommend going with butter or vegan butter first, just because like classic cinnamon rolls are gonna use butter. So I'm measuring out 1/3 cup, and I'm just gonna melt this in the microwave. So I'm gonna mix the liquid ingredients in this bowl. So we're doing 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then the melted butter. And then this buttermilk mixture has been sitting for like 5 minutes now. And I'm just gonna mix that all up. And then we're gonna do the dry ingredients. So I have 2 1/4 cup of gluten-free flour here. So I've made these with a lot of success with this cup for cup blend. So if you have this on hand, or if you want to buy this one, I definitely recommend it. But it does have milk in it, so I wanted to test a dairy-free flour for you guys, for my dairy-free followers. So I'm gonna try this one today. It's the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 baking flour. I'm gonna try this one out today. I do not recommend their gluten-free all-purpose flour. I've used this for other recipes and I like it, but I did not like it for the cinnamon rolls. So don't use their red bag for this one. That's what I'm gonna try today. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it works. So I have 2 1/4 cup measured out here. And then you need 2 teaspoons of baking powder, not baking soda. Make sure it's baking powder. And then we need 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. So just give that a quick mix. I like to do this separate first, because then you're not over mixing the batter once you add this to the wet ingredients. So make sure to mix up the dry ingredients first. We're gonna add the dry ingredients to the wet. Okay, so I am mixing this together. Again, you don't wanna over mix it, but you wanna make sure everything is well combined. Because it's kind of sticky, there's gonna be some dough on the sides of the bowl, so just get that all into one portion as much as you can. Again, it's a little sticky, so it's not gonna be like a ball of dough, but just get that together. And then I get a rubber spatula and just scrape this extra dough off the spoon. So it's a sticky little kind of ball of dough. I'm gonna cover this with a tea towel loosely and set it aside for 10 minutes. So at this point, I get all of my filling ingredients ready. It's a very simple filling, but you need 1/4 cup of butter or vegan butter. I would not use coconut oil here, just because, again, you want that butter flavor for the filling. And then you're also gonna need coconut sugar for the filling. You could substitute brown sugar here. And then, of course, cinnamon. And now I'm gonna flour my workstation. So I cleaned up the countertop, and I'm just gonna lightly flour my workstation. This is gonna be for rolling out the dough so that it doesn't stick. I'm gonna preheat the oven to 350. So this has been sitting for 10 minutes. I'm gonna use my rubber spatula to turn the dough out. Again, it's a little sticky, don't worry. Just use your spatula to kind of scrape all of the dough out. So I've got my ball of dough. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of flour. And now what you're gonna do is work that flour into the ball of dough and kind of sprinkle on as needed. If it's sticking to your hand or if it's sticking to the counter at all, Sprinkle a little bit more on, but don't feel like you need to use up all of the flour in your workstation. I'm just working that flour in so that it's not like a dusty texture before we bake. You can see it's more of like a firm ball of dough. So we're gonna get rolling, but before I do that, I kind of re-flour my surface because we're gonna press this out into a rectangle and then start rolling, and we don't want that to stick. You can definitely use a rolling pin here, but I know a lot of people don't have things like that in the kitchen, so I just wanted to show you how I would press it out by hand. You just wanna make sure it's about a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch thick, I would say. You're gonna roll it up, and each time you roll it, tuck it in a bit so that it's tightly rolled. So now I'm just pressing the final seam in so that it's really sealed. If there are little patches where the dough had a little bit of a tear, I will just kind of move things around and patch it up, but make sure you're really pressing in this final seam. I have my greased baking pan. You want to give each cinnamon roll about 1/2 inch of space in between so that they have room to expand. Okay, so verdict on the Bob's Red Mill flour. They still worked, they taste amazing. I took a little bite of one. They kind of like flopped to the side. I'll put up a picture of the ones that I made with the cup for cup. They were just structurally looked a little better, but honestly, who cares if baked goods look perfect if you're making them at home? I don't care, especially with cinnamon rolls. You're just gonna devour it anyways and put a glaze on top. So yeah, let's make the glaze. So for my glaze, I'm just doing a cup of powdered sugar. It kind of depends what milk you use. I start with 1 tablespoon and I usually need like a little bit more. It's a little too thick, so I'm just adding a little bit more almond milk until I get that glaze texture that I want. Now for the taste test. It just reminds me of going to the mall when I was younger and getting a Cinnabon, I think they were called. They taste amazing. The texture is amazing. Let me know if you make these. Let me know if you try another brand and have success with it. But I hope that was helpful, and I can't wait for you guys to try these. Wow.